A few years ago, I got into hiking every weekend to get some exercise and a break from my desk job all week. I was working remotely but never had the time to enjoy the beauty of the place I was at all week. Once I went off the beaten track a bit and I smelled this really overpowering sweet smell. I walked toward it thinking it might be some fruit over-ripened because no one bothered to pluck it. That's when I saw him, lying in the mud, still, eyes almost popping out. All colors around him gave me the quick visual of a clown. The guy had clearly been there a while. He was swollen and green and black with various runny bits, something reddish, whitish, and brown oozing from all parts of him. The local wildlife had also been dining well on him for a few days. I should have run or screamed or fainted, but something made me calm, focused, determined. It was like the hours of watching thriller and crime shows made me ready for this day. Like it was nothing at all to discover a body on your weekend hike. I knew what to do. I called the police, who told me to wait with the body until they arrived. Being in the middle of nowhere, it took a while for them to arrive, and it got dark. And I was just there, sat in the dark with him for a long time. The smell wasn't bad, you see, it was just overpoweringly sweet, maybe a little pungent. The police came. I left without looking back at him. The smell stayed with me for a few days after. I got into the habit of brewing coffee or tea at home at all times. Nothing sweet or ripe can be there. The police told me later that he had unalived himself. Every mention of him or reminder caused me to have vivid dreams about him. When he, in that state of oozing, half eaten by animals rotting, would stand up and run toward me. I had dreams about him and he would shout at me. He was angry I had disturbed his resting place. He wanted to be with nature. And I made it so that he is in a cold, grey place somewhere, with people fiddling with his corpse to understand the cause of death. He started talking to me about death a lot. He wanted me to end myself. He kept coming in my dreams, urging me to come to the same hiking path. He described in detail how he ended himself, weirdly, each time a different story. Perhaps some anxiety was triggered with that incident, and this is all in my head. Strangely, anyone I shared this with, family or friend, requested me to never speak about him again, as he seemed to turn up in their dreams too. They've not even seen him, and neither have I told them the state or the exact details, but he looks the same in everyone's dreams. It feels too real. They complain and beg me to never share again. He whispers mean things in the dark. Well, he shouts at me, I told them. Friends started to avoid me, and he once laughed in my dream that this is how it all starts. I stopped sharing anything about him with them, worried that his life would come true, but I needed this outlet. He still turns up in my dreams from time to time, and no doubt will be there tonight after this. I hope he doesn't come in your dreams and disturb your sleep. Thanks for listening though. When I was 18, my grandmother was dying of cancer, and my mother and I stayed at her house and took care of her during her last few weeks. Grandma was completely bedridden, unable to move without help. One night at 3 or so, my mother hurried into my room and told me that my grandmother ran into her room, shook her awake, and then ran out of the room. I got up quickly, then mumbled that grandma couldn't walk. I followed her out of the room to go to grandma's room. There was no creepiness at the time, just a genuine concern for what my grandmother could possibly doing up at 3 a.m. running, when she was literally days away from dying, bedridden. When we went into her room and she was on the bed, still and not breathing. She had passed away. My mother was devastated, and I was grieved but comforted her and started to call other family members. Obviously, given the shock of my grandmother dying, my mother and I didn't sit around chatting about how weird the whole experience was or even told anyone else. But months or perhaps even a year later, I asked her about that night. My mother looked shocked. She had no memory of telling me that my grandmother was up and walking around the house. She doesn't even remember what woke her up or why she woke me up. I asked her how she knew to wake me and check on Grandma at a random time. She had no answer. Grandma's house used to creep me out even as a child, but all my concerns were brushed away. Sharing this with my brother, he said, "Well, I sure hope it was Grandma who woke her up and not that thing that used to run around the house at night when we were kids, remember?" I hoped he had forgotten about it. This gives me shivers just writing it. At least we're not going to stay there again as the house is being renovated and made into an Airbnb. I just have to go once to pack all her stuff up, hoping for an uneventful stay. My professor told me the story. She said that when she was a child, she shared a room with her younger sister. One night, she was in her bed and her sister told her to look toward the door. She looked up and saw the silhouette of a man standing in the doorway. She had a light switch right next to her bed, so she turned it on, and there was nobody in the doorway. They called for their dad. He came in asking them what was wrong. They told him what they had seen, and he said it was probably just their eyes playing tricks on them. He brushed it all away and went away quickly, urging them just to sleep. The next day, my teacher went downstairs and saw her father sitting at the kitchen table just staring. She asked him what was wrong. He said, "Was the man you saw a tall man with a hat?" She claims that each member of the family saw the silhouette a number of times over the years, and each time it was the same thing. They would turn on a light and there would be nobody there. I've been creeped out ever since she told me this story.